California is not banning RVs. I know that is contrary to all the headlines you've been seeing all across the internet and all across YouTube, but no, California is not banning RVs, not even close. And I'm going to explain to you what is actually happening in California and some other states with regards to RVs.
Ain't nobody gonna do it for you. You got to mind your own.
All right, so before we talk about what's really happening as far as RVs in California, I just want to let you know, if you're watching this in real time in December, my calendars are now on sale. I do these every year because you ask for them. So if you haven't gotten yours yet on the pre-sale, they are still available. Use the link in the video description below to get your 2025 Carolyn's RV Life calendar with 12 gorgeous pictures, a great calendar with all the holidays, and it's a very inclusive calendar. A lot of the holidays that you may not see on every calendar. And also I am providing GPS coordinates for some of the pictures this year, and also a playlist so that every month you can look at the picture and you can scan a QR code to see the video of my time in that location. Yeah, how cool is that? So it's only $21.99 for US addresses, including shipping, and $25.99 for everybody internationally, including shipping. So go ahead and click the link in the video description below. We're going to be starting to ship them out in a couple of weeks. I just ordered them, so hurry up, get your calendar. All right, let's talk about what is actually going on. I know that we are bombarded with information these days, and we might just read headlines without reading full stories. So a lot of us are under the impression, I know I was, that RVs are completely banned in California and New York, and I'll talk about all the states. They're completely banned altogether. I literally, when this news started hitting, I had to look it up. I thought I wouldn't be able to drive my RV into California. Anybody else have that concern? Or was under that impression that you just weren't even going to be able to you weren't even going to be able to drive your RV? Like, they were going to be, instead of the agriculture checkpoints, they were going to be turning those into, oh, if you're in an RV, you can't come into California. I really thought that might be happening, but that's not what's happening at all. And let me explain. California, of course, is a leader in trying to clean up the environment and slow down global warming. I don't care if you don't agree with me, it's a fact. Tons of scientists agree that humans are contributing to the planet warming up. That's a fact. And don't leave your comments below. I don't care. You're not going to change my mind. But California has been a leader in trying to clean up the air and clean up the environment, and strict smog laws and things like that a lot of other states have recognized are beneficial to humanity and the planet and future generations, and they have adopted these tough laws. California has now gone a step further, like they often do, because they're often leaders in legislation and rules and things that help people. And what they have done is they have it's called the California's Advanced Clean Trucks Regulation, and they have adopted that in 2025. And what that means is any vehicle over 8,500 pounds, whether it's an RV, whether it is a delivery truck, whether there are some exceptions like school buses and military and things like that, but basically any vehicle over 8,500 pounds, they want the manufacturers of those vehicles to start offering a percentage of their sales in zero emission vehicles. So if you are a manufacturer of these large internal combustion engines, Ford, Mercedes, Chevy, Dodge, all the companies that make big trucks. My RV sits on a Ford E450 chassis, so that's Ford. They are saying they want that chassis to be zero emissions, and they want all of these manufacturers and companies that sell these vehicles to start offering a percentage, and that's it. They're just saying, listen, if you sell 1,000 trucks a year, we want 10% of those to start being clean energy. I don't know if that's not the exact number, but they want a percentage of their sales to start being clean energy vehicles instead of gas vehicles. Well, the problem with this for the RV industry is that there are no internal combustion energy companies that are making zero emission vehicles for large vehicles. So Ford isn't making a zero emission for something that weighs over 9,800 pounds or 8,900 pounds. Mercedes isn't building something for vehicles that are over 85, I think it was 8,500, right? Yeah, 8,500 pounds. So what that means is that the RV manufacturers and sales companies are not going to be able to meet that criteria. They are not going to be able to sell 10% of their total production. They're not going to be able to meet that, well, 10% needs to be clean energy, because they're not able to get clean energy engines. Now, this isn't new. This is not new. California has been working with the RV industry and manufacturers probably for a couple of decades. Electric vehicles aren't new. We've had them for probably 20 years now, 10 years. So California is basically saying, okay, if you can't meet that criteria, then you can't sell your gas engines, these giant, huge gas engine vehicles in our state. I mean, why? People are like losing their crap over this. They're like freaking out over this. You know, and I know a lot of people don't believe in global warming, but it is a proven scientific fact that humans are contributing to it, and that transportation is 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the world. And so, you know, and even if you don't agree with it, put your critical thinking cap on for a minute. Why would California do this if it's not going to help in the long run? I mean, do you really think they want to shoot themselves in the foot? That means they're not going to get the sales tax for RV sales in their state. They're not going to get this business, you know, businesses pay taxes, businesses hire people. Why do you think they're willing to give all that up if there isn't going to be some benefit in the long term? And they believe the benefit is cleaner air, saving the planet. How can you hate somebody for wanting to do good? Even if you don't agree with it, even if you don't agree with how they're doing it, they believe they're doing good. And they are scientists, educators, manufacturers. I mean, there's a whole bunch of really smart people who have devoted their lives to studying this stuff, and I would believe them, because not everybody is out to get us and lie to us. Not everything is a conspiracy theory. So California has been working with these manufacturers of internal combustion engines for a very long time. They knew this was coming, and instead of investing the money into production processes to make zero emission vehicles, they have instead increased their profits, made more money, made their shareholders rich, did stock buybacks, all the things that big, huge corporations do. They have just decided, no, we don't want to spend the money. And in the meantime, they're making record profits. So I don't think we can be mad at California for following through with what they said they were going to do and not bowing down to big business. They have not bowed. They have stood their ground on the side of the planet, on the side of humanity, and they have stood up to big business. That's how I see it. And so if these RV manufacturers didn't put enough pressure on their suppliers of these chassis, of these big, huge vehicles to manufacture zero-emission vehicles, then sorry, you're SOL. You can't sell in our state. But even with that, they're not completely cutting them off. RV manufacturers can actually buy credits. They can buy like these credits that are on the marketplace that will allow them to continue to sell if these credits are available. And I'm reading that they may not be available because these companies are not making any zero emissions engines for large vehicles, but that option is there that they can buy credits. So here is what the law means for you and me. RV manufacturers will not be able to sell in California after 2025. So the model year of an RV, like mine is a 2005 RV, but my chassis is a 2004. So what I'm reading is a chassis that is a 2024 chassis on a 2025 model year. You will not be able to register that in California because it goes against their new requirements for manufacturers and RV sellers to sell part of their inventory as zero emission vehicles. What does that mean? That means if you want to buy a brand new RV in 2025 and you live in California, you will not be able to register it in California. But it's not a complete ban. You can still buy used RVs. You can buy a used RV as long as it has 7,500 miles on it or more. You can buy a used RV. You just can't buy a brand new 2025 RV and register it in California. You also can't go to Nevada and buy a brand new 2025 RV and bring it into California and try to register it. No. If you want to register an RV in California, it has to have more than 7,500 miles on it. It has to be used. And you have to prove that it's used by the number of miles on it. The other thing is that this is only for vehicles that are 8,500 pounds or more gross weight, which is mostly going to be Class C's and Class A's. It's not going to affect fifth wheels because they don't have engines. Not going to affect trailers. Again, they don't have engines. It's not going to affect Class B's, and it's not going to affect vans. So really, it's just Class C and Class A's that it's going to affect. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't drive. We can still drive and go to Yosemite and do all the tourist things in California. It just means that California, for now, is telling RV companies you can't sell in our state because you can't meet the minimum requirement for selling zero emission vehicles. But as soon as they ramp up that manufacturing, as soon as they are able to produce, let's say that number is 10% of their engines as zero emission, then they're going to be back up for business. A lot of people are freaking out. I mean, I was reading a comment section. People are just losing their shit over this. And I mean, this is a state, in my opinion, who is standing up to big business, who is saying, no, big business, you need to stop and reinvest some of your money in something that's actually going to help the people. And people, of course, are standing up for the big business. Does it mean prices are going to go up for consumers? Probably in the short term, but they don't have to because RV manufacturers are making probably record profits just like everybody else, but heaven forbid they take that out of their profits. They pass it on to the consumers. But just like when cars first came out, in the early 1900s, they cost a fortune. Electric cars, when they first came out, were only for like the richest of the rich. But over time, these prices come down. And that is what's going to happen. But what really is happening right now is that California is holding these manufacturers, holding their feet over the fire, saying you need to start thinking about the public good instead of your own profits, your own greed. I think that's a good thing. And it doesn't mean you can't have an RV. It doesn't mean that, your rights are getting taken away in any way. It just means that you're going to need to make some modifications. But you know what? Being part of a democratic republic, being part of a society, especially if we want to start fighting back against the deep state, which are the rich oligarchs, if we want to start fighting back against them, that means we need to make some sacrifices. So what? You can't buy a $1 million, 400 square foot 2025 RV in California. Boo-hoo. Go buy a used one. We have to start thinking in terms of need versus want. You don't need an RV. You don't need a brand new RV. You want one. Okay, but sometimes we need to make some sacrifices for the public good and the future of humanity and this planet. And that means the sacrifice might be, instead of getting a brand new $25 million bus, you get a 2024 with 7,500 miles on it. Big frickin' deal. It's not the end of the world. The other states that are adopting the California CARB Act rule are Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, and Washington, which will also take effect with the 2025 model year, while rules in Vermont will take effect in 2026, and those in Colorado, Maryland, New Mexico, and Rhode Island in 2027. So once again, California is leading the cause on this and saying we are going to be the first. By the time 2027 comes, it's not going to be a big deal for those other states, because hopefully the manufacturing will have ramped up. Ford, Mercedes, Chrysler, Chevy will all have production of zero emission engines that the RV manufacturers will be able to buy and put in their vehicle, and they'll be able to meet the criteria for these other states. Again, nobody is doing this to hurt you. Nobody is doing this, for some conspiracy theory reason. They're doing this because they really believe, based on scientific evidence, that this is what is best for humanity. I'm cheering them on. Finally, somebody is, we complain all the time that politicians are bought by millionaires and big business, and then when politicians don't bow down to millionaires and big business, then we still complain. So, what is it? Like, we either cheer our government for looking out for our best interest, or we continue to just complain about everything. And a lot of people are saying this is going to kill the RV manufacturing business. That RV companies are going to go belly up. It's going to be catastrophic. It's going to be the end of RVing. I'm seeing some real... People are really afraid, I guess, of what this means. So this is like 7 to 10 states, okay? We still have 42 states, or 40 states, where you can buy RVs. It's not the end of RVing. It's not the end of the RV manufacturers. But what I do think is going to happen is that it will weed out, I think, some of the RV manufacturers. Those who are at the bottom can't afford to pivot, which they should have been ready to pivot anyway. Why do we have to force them to do the right thing, right? Why do we have to force them to reinvest in things that are good for the public good rather than lining their pockets? So we might lose a few RV manufacturers, but the best are the ones that are going to rise to the top. The best are going to be able to survive this. They're going to be able to pivot. They're going to be able to produce these engines. I have no doubt Ford is already making an electric engine. So why? It's not that big of a leap to be able to do it for larger vehicles. So it's just a matter of holding their feet to the fire and making them do it, because all corporations care about is shareholder profits, shareholder income. They just want to make money for their shareholders. That's it. And sometimes we need government to hold their feet to the fire. The other thing that I have been seeing is a lot of people think this is only affecting diesel engines, and that is not true. It might have been in the beginning, but now it is both diesel and gas engines. So again, California, New York, Massachusetts, none of these states are banning RVs. They're not even banning RV sales. They are just saying, if you want to sell in our state, which they have every right to do, then here are the terms. And if you can't meet those terms, then yeah, you know what? You're not going to be able to sell here until you meet those terms. It's not going to affect most of us. Really, it's not. All right, I hope you found that helpful. Leave your thoughts about the law below. I don't need you to try to convince me that global warming isn't real, because I won't believe you. Because science. All right, but what do you think? Leave your questions and comments below, and thank you so much for being here. I will see you Sunday night. In the meantime, be happy, be free, and be kind. Get your calendar.